being on a service trip to a developing country? Good. Well, how many of us have friends or family members or have considered going on one ourselves? Quite a few of us. Salmon James' admission to this prestigious school, yeah? I want to tell you a story. There's a tribe of cattle herders in Kenya called the Maasai, and they're quite famous. And every 10 years, the Maasai knock down their mud homes and move their cows to greener pastures. And one year, an American high school wanted to come help the Maasai and build them a home. The Maasai said, sure. So 20 students flew to Kenya. They spent 2 weeks in the community, they built the home, and then they left. And they even took extra special care to involve the community elders and the youths in the planning and building of this house. But what they failed to realize was that the Maasai were in the 9th year of a 10-year cycle. And within 6 months, they packed up their things, knocked down their homes, and moved on, never to come back again. What I'm here to say is that almost every type of foreign service work that we're familiar with is morally wrong. And it's the consequences of them that make them so. Foreign groups that build homes where people know how to build homes, or start schools where people can educate their children, or bring internet to places that have cyber cafes down the block or even 10 miles away, are damaging those communities in more ways that meet the eye. So I'm here to propose a new principle for foreign works. And the principle is this. Foreigners working in developing communities during non-emergencies must exceed the existing imaginative capacities of those communities in order for their works to be morally permissible. So let me unpack a few things I've said here. There are times of humanitarian emergency in the developing world when people need food, water, shelter, and security as quickly as they can get it, and when this principle does not apply. But then there are times of non-emergency, when life goes on in the developing world, whether we show up or not. Now, of course, some of us may think that every day in a place like Africa is an emergency. But the problem with that view is that it ignores the sheer amount of resilience and innovation that Africans and others like them use on a daily basis just to get by and to live meaningful lives. So what's imaginative capacity? Well, they say that necessity is the mother of all invention. So where there's an abundance of necessity, we might expect to find an overabundance of innovation. And that is exactly what we find in slums, villages, and everywhere in between. Very little of the economic activity that happens in a slum is superfluous. You're not going to find a Botox center walking through a slum. Okay? Mothers are selling fruits and vegetables to families. Young men are collecting recycling and starting internet cafes, and carpenters are building and rebuilding homes. Life isn't pretty in a slum, but it happens. And at the same time, these people are spending a lot of time and resources just to stay alive. And they don't always have the opportunity to step back and learn from the rest of the world. So the imaginative capacities of any group of people are limited by three things: the tools and technologies, the ideas, and the social arrangements to which they're exposed on a daily basis. Now we can think of these three things as comprising a big toolkit. And when we go to a foreign community, we should ask ourselves, what's in our toolkit? Some people say that we shouldn't bring the weight of our foreign knowledge and experience with us to new places. That sort of mentality is arrogant and imposing. And in many ways, they are right. But the problem today is with people who want to show up in new communities with blank slates in their minds. What they're saying is they want their toolkits to be this big. And as we know, it's not just the size of our toolkits that matter either. How flexible are our tools? Am I still using one of those classic flat-tip screwdrivers, or the new ones with 100 different detachable ends on it? And the diversity of our tools matters as well. Let me make this clear. If I'm invited to a dinner party and the host is making macaroni, I better not be bringing macaroni to that dinner party. Okay? Our toolkit's not going to be better, it's going to be different. and because of that, hopefully useful. Now, I'm all for the type of cultural learning that happens when groups go to foreign lands. But that learning does not need to come with the expense of a poor project. Now, of course, a lot of us, when we go to foreign places, we want to actually show that we're going to do something for people. And so we come home with photos that look like these. The bare minimum proof of our having interacted with the community. The bottom left is me doing research in Rwanda. These other two are from a real Pulitzer of a website. Girl goes to Africa.com. But there are 4 problems with foreign projects that I want to talk about today. First, when foreign projects make partnerships with locals in their developing communities, they tend to do so in a way that reinforces local religious, family, or ethnic divides. Consider this. If politics is power, and money is power, then money is politics. And foreigners who are seen to have lots of money are inherently political. We are objects of power. And so the locals we work with will keep us in their sphere. And they'll make sure we only work with their allies and their friends. And so foreign groups tend to distribute positions of authority and opportunity with poor discrimination for who truly deserves them. And so every time a local makes a partnership with a foreign group, that local tends to gain 2 suspicious neighbors in turn. I knew a Kenyan NGO that couldn't afford to use the community soccer field because a German NGO would come in and pay $200 to do just that. The bottom line is foreign groups distort power. Second, foreign groups have no adequate feedback mechanisms from the communities. No one's going to tell us that our idea is a poor one, so long as it involves a transaction with the community. Because locals know the drill when foreigners come in. If we're proposing to do something that the community has the distributed knowledge to do itself, but for some reason hasn't, the locals will know what the political reasons are that that project hasn't happened. But they're not going to stop us from trying anyways. Because when we walk into a slum, we are ignorance armed with money. Third, projects that build things tend to leave those things unmaintained. The so-called sustainability of projects is a fallacy. Because once the people who had the original time, energy, resources, and vision to start a project are gone, then you can be sure that that project is gone. When NGOs say that they've handed ownership over to the locals, it's often industry jargon to say that they're letting that project fall off the map. The problem with sustainability is that we expect locals to do things that they simply cannot or will not do. The locals' first priority is to feed their families. If sustaining our project is in any way a hindrance to them, then they're not going to sustain our project, and that is only our fault. Fourth, worst of all, foreign groups that provide goods and services such as housing, water, plumbing, education, free internet, create psychological dependencies far more insidious than any power distortions. Foreign groups must be blind to the fact that internet cafes and cyber cafes are popping up in slums and villages all over the developing world. We should be nurturing entrepreneurship, not crushing it. So let me restate my principle. Foreigners working in developing communities during non-emergencies must exceed the existing imaginative capacities of those communities in order for their works to be morally permissible. Violations of this principle are endemic in the foreign world. Passionate people from all around the world descend on developing communities daily with uninspired ideas and worse consequences. And people will go on violating this principle, even some of us. We all want to think that we have the cultural acuity and the finesse to avoid the standard mistakes, to not get taken advantage of, to treat people with respect. And you know what? While we're on the ground, we're probably not going to see our groups making these mistakes. But the fact that we don't need to see our mistakes to make them is what keeps the world of foreign development spinning. Foreign groups cannot displace existing entrepreneurs or preempt would-be entrepreneurs by the sheer fact of our foreignness or our well-fundedness. Any projects that do so are morally wrong. Thank you.